the game, cause see the boxing voice.
Welcome back, gang, for the first time and hopefully many more to come. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click on the notifications right here, this little bell, so you can get those emails every time we go live.
This is Akin, aka Jack is the Truth. I'm here at the Eubank de Gale presser with the legendary trainer, Abel Sanchez. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm really good. It's a pleasure to have you in London. Obviously, you're managing Joyce, who is on the undercard, and that was a spicy presser.
Yeah, you know what? It got a little heated. I think that these two guys, Bermain especially, is a little wound up, ready for Saturday, and that's a good thing. That just tells me that he's looking forward to matching skills and matching wits with Joyce on Saturday night.
It's interesting that you said it's a good thing, because I would have thought that if someone is emotional or easily rattled by a trainer, for example, or by Joyce's manager, that speaks to him might wanting to do things out of emotion rather than sticking to a game plan.
No, he's too much of a experienced fighter. He's an ex-world champion. But just like when you do with roosters or with animals that you fight, you pit them against each other to piss them off. I think that that right there pissed Bermain off, and it's a good thing, because hopefully Saturday night we get that kind of aggression inside the ring.
Fantastic. We heard Richard Schaefer, saying great things about Joyce. He said he believes he's the best heavyweight in the world currently. What's your perspective?
We're on our way there. I don't. There's three very, very good heavyweights that are champions right now. I don't want to take nothing away from them. Joe is on his way. Joe will be one of those champions before the end of next year. But there's three guys that are exceptional at the top right now, and Joe is on his way.
So, I'm sure you were privy to the sparring sessions that have remained so heated. What is the truth about the sparring sessions?
Actually, that's sparring is one thing and the fight's another. Sparring, they're wearing big gloves, they're wearing a headgear. You're trying to help each other prepare for certain fights. You're not out there to hurt each other. So whatever happened in the sparring, I think it's something that should be left alone, in my opinion, because again, it's just sparring. It's not an actual fight. When we get stepping through the ropes on the 23rd, they're going to be wearing some very small gloves, no headgear, and they're going to be all wound up and ready to get at each other. So it's a different story.
How do you see this fight going? Joyce is a heavy-handed fighter. Do you expect him to knock out Bermain Stavern, or do you think it will go the distance?
I think that Bermain will, because of his experience, will try to maneuver Joe into positions, into traps. But I think that by the second half of the fight, Joe's imposing power and strength will be too much, and he'll start catching Bermain and maybe stop him somewhere between the 8th and the 9th.
You've had some illustrious names as trainers. Where does Joyce stack up in terms of the people that you've actually trained?
Well, as a heavyweight, the heavyweights are much different than some of the other weights that I've had in the past. But Joe is a George Foreman throwback. I think that he possesses some skills that are very hard to find in the heavyweight division. His natural body strength is difficult to deal with. His imposing presence in the ring is difficult to deal with. Guys get tired very quickly when they're facing him because of his presence. But it's a young man with only 7 professional fights, one of the most decorated amateurs as a heavyweight here in this country. We have some development to go before the end of the year. I think you will see him, or you will mention him in the words of in the sentences with some of the great fighters, heavyweight fighters of the past.
I suppose I have to ask you about the heavyweight division. There's so much happening with the news of Tyson Fury signing with ESPN. That, in many people's opinion, puts further roadblocks up against making the rematch happen with Deontay Wilder. What is your opinion on that deal? Do you think it negates that fight from happening, or do you think it's a good thing?
No, I don't think it negates it, and I don't think it's a bad thing or a good thing. I think that Bob Arum has shown in the past that he's willing to work with other promoters and other networks. I think that him signing with Bob Arum just gives him a platform where he's on an even playing field in the U.S. I feel that Tyson won the last fight, and maybe because he was not with an American promoter, he didn't get the benefit of the doubt. But I think that Bob Arum is the kind of promoter that is open to all kinds of possibilities. And with HBO out of the picture, I think these networks have to understand that they have to work with each other, because there's fighters on all sides. There's fighters on all teams, on all networks that need to put on the good fights so the fans can still come to the fights. The heavyweight division has a resurgence right now with some very, very good fighters and very good fights. We have to keep that momentum going.
Is Al Hayman as willing to work with Bob Arum in particular? I had an interview with Bob Arum, and he said that Al Hayman's happy for his fighters to fight each other and not play well with others. Do you think that relationship between Arum and Al Hayman is a potential stumbling block?
You know, there used to be talk of Don King now working with Bob Arum, but yet they were able to work together in the past with Tyson. So I think that when the fans call for it, when the networks are able to come together, I think the promoters will come together too, because the two fighters want the fight. There's some answers to be, some questions to be answered, and I think the rematch will answer those questions. I think the fight gets made sometime in May, and we'll see who the better fighter is.
I suppose if the fight doesn't get made and Joyce comes through this test, he's in pole position, I would think, to have a potential matchup against Deontay Wilder, considering they're both on Showtime.
No, as a coach, I would like to see several fights after this one for Joe. This kind of level fights, where he's fighting guys that are gonna prepare him for Joshua, for Wilder, for Fury. I don't think that immediately after this fight, where I would like to see that. Mainly because I have to be sure that I can develop the kind of skills that are going to be needed to be able to compete with those guys.
You mentioned Anthony Joshua. I'm sure you've seen the press conference between Joshua and Big Baby Miller in New York. What are your opinions? People are suggesting maybe Big Baby was rattled, that's why he was acting out of character, or maybe that was character, or Joshua was rattled. What's your take on that, on the presser, and how do you think the fight will go?
Well, first of all, I think that Joshua wins the fight. I think he wins the decision. I'm not so sure on his whiskers. I think that he's been hurt a couple times by, well, not only by Dylan, but also by Vladimir. It all depends really on Miller to me. It depends on what his weight is for the fight. If he comes in under 300, if he comes in at 290, 295, that means he's motivated. That means he's working hard for the fight. The shove that Miller gave to Joshua was more of to show him how strong he was, more of a mental thing. But I think it's a good fight. I think that it's up to Miller really to make it the kind of fight that the heavyweight division has seen in the past. But Joshua wins the fight today.
You said by decision.
I think by decision. I don't think Joshua knocks him out. I think Miller's got a decent chin.
Well, that's interesting. What about to the body? You don't think he can stop him to the body?
It's going to be difficult to hit a guy to the body that's that short when Joshua's that tall. He's going to try, but I think that Miller is adept enough to be able to handle that. I think Miller hits Joshua to the body more than Joshua hits Miller.
Considering the way Miller fights, he's a come-forward fighter, a pressure fighter. He's out per round is one of the highest in the heavyweight division. How does Joshua win that on decision if Miller has that type of work rate? Miller has that type of work rate with the other opposition. He doesn't have that kind of work rate with an Anthony Joshua. Joshua will dictate. Miller will try, but Joshua will dictate, and I think Joshua will, his skills will be why he wins the decision. But Miller can be a threat. Miller can land that punch that, because of his aggressiveness, that could change the tide. Well, Abel Sanchez, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you talking to the Boxing Voice. That's all I have at the minute. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, thank you very much. The UK has been very hospitable. Hopefully we're successful on Saturday night, and we're coming back here for a big heavyweight title fight.
We'll be really interested to see that. I appreciate your time, and all the best on Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Yo, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.